It's time for Come and Talk It with your host, Michael Cargill, brought to you by Texas Law Shield. Over the last decade, Michael has championed and supported the rights of law-abiding Texans to own and use firearms. He is the owner of Central Texas Gun Works, a veteran of the United States Army, and has achieved national exposure in such prestigious media outlets such as Forbes Magazine, Fox Business News, CNN Money, AOL, BBC World News, Huffington Post, and the New York Times. Cargill vigorously defends lawful gun ownership in this country without regard to party politics. And now, here's Michael Cargill.
Good day, Austin, Texas, the live music capital of the world. You know what? Today, we're going to talk about the anniversary of the Austin mass shooting. It's been 2 years. There was a mass shooting here in Austin, Texas. And the weird thing is, there hasn't been a trial. So the person that's been held that's supposed to be responsible has not been brought to court, to justice, so we can take care of this matter. And we need that to happen. The family needs closure. You know, there are a bunch of families that have been injured. There's a family that lost a loved one, and they need some type of closure. This is Michael Cargill, and you are listening to Come and Talk It. All right, so also, we want to discuss the Daniel Perry subway killing and what the implications are. Daniel Penny. I said Perry, didn't I?
Very similar.
I know. Daniel Penny.
Daniel Penny.
Penny. Penny. I'll let you say it. Daniel
Penny.
Daniel
Penny.
All right, there we go. All right, so we're going to talk about that case. That happened in New York.
That was in New York City subway, yeah.
New York City subway. And honestly, we have different opinions on the show about this case.
What different opinions?
We have different opinions. Some people think, Daniel Penny was innocent. Some people think that Daniel Penny should be guilty of murder.
Who thinks he should be guilty of murder?
You'll be surprised. So we're going to talk about that. All right, so, also, we're going to talk about some gun news, all the gun news around the country that's happened over the last week. I'm going to discuss that, but man, it's, there's a special place in my heart for the Kantor family. And that is, Doug Kantor lost his life 2 years ago. This guy was here in Austin, Texas, enjoying his, a nice summer vacation, just graduated college, looking forward to starting a new life with looking forward to getting married, a new house, starting a new life, new chapter in his life. And then a teenager decided to have a beef with someone else and accidentally shoot Doug Kantor, who happened to be in the way of his beef with whoever he had a beef with. And so he took this guy's life. And guess what? The Austin, Texas, Travis County District Attorney has not held him accountable for this murder. No figure. We're talking, what's his name?
The murderer?
No, the DA.
Garza?
What's his name?
Is that his name?
My name is Jose Garza, and I'm humbled to be your district attorney.
Yeah, Garza.
Yes, he's not. He has not been held accountable, for this young man's murder. A guy that's starting his new life, getting ready to get married, new home, just graduated from college.
Yeah, 25 years old.
The entire world is his oyster, and his life was taken abruptly out of nowhere. And so I do want to give the family a chance to come on the show and talk about their loved one. I want Doug, the brother, to come on. Nick Kantor. I want Nick to come on the show to talk about his brother. Very sad situation. Very sad. Very, very sad situation. It never should have happened. And the thing that bothers me the most is the fact that the district attorney is so focused on other things. The DA is focused on prosecuting police officers for, things that happened in 2020 during the riots and the protests. when rioters were destroying this city, blocking traffic, using people in wheelchairs who are paraplegic as speed bumps to stop traffic, using AR-15s, AK-47s to stop traffic, to block traffic in our roadway. And this district attorney legalized this. Apparently, that's legal. It's legal for you to use an AK-47, block traffic, use someone who's paraplegic in a wheelchair to block the roadway, commit a Class A misdemeanor with a weapon. Is actually apparently legal to do that in Austin, Texas now. Just so you know. We also want to talk about there's a stabbing that happened. We're going to talk about that New York stabbing. Daniel Penny.
That wasn't a stabbing. That was choking.
Choking.
Daniel Penny choked Jordan Neely, the homeless Michael
but-
Jackson impersonator, and just
Recently. But Jordan Penny
Jordan Williams.
was trying to stab someone.
Well, did he have a knife? Jordan Neely?
Jordan Williams.
Jordan Williams stabbed
Was
a
trying-
guy. I'm not even going to try and pronounce his name.
Right.
This is more recent, totally separate. Well, similar, but completely separate from the Daniel Penny incident. Jordan Williams stabbed a psychotic guy on the subway who assaulted him and his girlfriend.
All right, so we're going to talk about all that stuff there too. Man, we got to put all this stuff together. The names are so similar. I get confused with Daniel Perry, the Sergeant United States Army who's working part-time for a rideshare company in Austin, Texas, caught up in a midst of a protest or riot here in Austin, Texas. Had to defend himself, actually gets convicted of a murder, actually convicted 25 years. Is that right?
Sounds about right.
Yeah, got convicted of killing someone who's actually who he perceived as trying to kill him. We also have Daniel Penny, who was protecting women who were being attacked on a subway. We'll talk about him. We want to talk about Nick Kantor, Doug Kantor, who's actually murdered 2 years ago in Austin, Texas, by a teenager. And the funny thing about, what's happening in Austin, you have teenagers who are committing massive crimes, and the DAs, the district attorneys, not holding them accountable, and also the judges and the judges that actually oversee these minors are not holding them accountable. And a funny fact, you know what? Go ahead and call me. My calling number is 512-643-5483. That's 512-643-5483. The funny thing about what's happening here in Austin, Texas, is that I don't know if this is good, I don't know if this is bad, but I'm going to tell you. One thing about Michael Cargill, I like to tell you the facts. And the fact is, 19 of the 21 district judges in Travis County are women, only 2 are black, and only 2 are male, and only 1 is Hispanic. That is 19 of the 21 are female. So if you're trying to get a divorce, Zach, if you want to get married and get a divorce, it's not looking good for you because 19 of the 21 are women. Not looking good. I don't know if that's good. I don't know if that's bad. I'm just letting you know. This is Michael Cargill, and you are listening to Come and Talk It.
Hi, this is Stephen Williford, the Barefoot Defender. I get my global gun news from Michael Cargill at Come and Talk It.
Your business is going to have technical problems. There's no question about it. Pacific Office Automation is your guide because problem solving is our passion. Every business is unique, no matter how big or how small the problem. From copiers and printers, telephone systems, managed IT, print services, and more, we offer integrated, streamlined office solutions to keep your office humming. With Pacific Office Automation, it's problem solved. Visit pacificoffice.com today to find out more.
I'm a U.S. Army veteran with a strong sense of duty and respect for our system of government. After 12 years, I was honorably discharged and decided I would fulfill the American dream of entrepreneurship and open up a gun shop in Austin, Texas. At my shop, I teach people to be law-abiding and how to safely use their firearm. On page 46, we're going to talk about Penal Code Section 46.02. The day that ban went into effect, I went into my local ATF in Austin and turned over my bump stock because I'm a law-abiding citizen. But I wasn't going down without a legal fight. So that's why I reached out to NCLA.
NCLA is representing Michael Cargill because federal agencies do not have the power to rewrite statutes. Bump stocks are not machine guns. If Congress wants to change the law and ban bump stocks, it certainly can do so. But we can't have the executive branch rewriting a statute and putting people in jail for up to 10 years.
It's a problem because, this government agency has said, you know what, something that is legal is now illegal, and we're going to confiscate it from you, and we're not going to compensate you for it, and you're going to become a criminal.
The goal of our case here is to tell the ATF that they can't get away with this kind of administrative lawmaking. This isn't constitutionally permissible, and this goes against everything that our nation was founded on.
The bump stock ban turned innocent law-abiding citizens into criminals overnight, even though they were compliant with the statute. And that's not right.
This case is not about where you stand on bump stocks. It's about the rule of law. It's about whether an agency can rewrite a statute and turn a law-abiding citizen into a criminal. If the ATF can ban bump stocks, any agency can ban anything.
Welcome back to Come and Talk It. And now here's Michael Cargill.
What are you doing? All right, so we're back and we're talking about a lot today. We have a lot to discuss. We have to break down it happened in New York. Man, New York, go figure. It's always something on the subway. It's always New York City. It's always either New York, it's Chicago, it's going to be LA, it's going to be Miami. It's always these major cities that are controlled by certain political party.
Which one?
The Democrat Party. And
do you know the word crap weasel?
And what kills me is, the fact that these guys are not prosecuting people. I don't know what's going on.
Oh, yeah, they are. They're prosecuting Daniel Penny.
Oh, they're prosecuting the wrong individuals, people that are defending
it's
themselves.
It's more like Gotham City there.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
So if you and me, we defend ourselves, and I'm actually afraid. Seriously. I think about this. I sit back and think about this at night. I said, man, as much as I talk about this stuff on the radio show, if I actually defend myself in a situation like this, I'm actually screwed.
Mm-hmm.
Because, all the different news stories, the radio show, the clippings, everything that I've talked about, they're going to use all that stuff against me. So if I actually have to defend myself, I'm actually in trouble.
Yeah, there is a book called The Gulag Archipelago, which was actually said to have brought down the Soviet Union because it outlined the atrocities that happened there. And a guy named Alexander Solzhenitsyn wrote it, and he has this great quote in there that I think is just perfect for what is happening, especially up in New York City right now. So he says, Your punishment for having a knife when they searched you would be very different from the thief's. For him to have a knife was mere misbehavior, tradition. He didn't know any better. But for you to have one was terrorism.
Mm,
So
that's
they
crazy.
treat you completely different. They treat the criminals totally different from the law abiding, right? From the people who are trying to defend themselves.
That's crazy. Insane. Man, I tell you, and I look at this case in New York. What do you know about the Daniel Penny case? You know anything about it?
Yeah, so he was on the bus with Jordan Neely,
Bus or subway?
or subway, yeah. He was
Okay.
on the train with Jordan Neely, and Jordan Neely was making all kinds of threats to people. He actually said, uh, I don't care if they take me to jail. He said some other really ominous, cryptic things, but basically saying that he didn't care and that he would just, do whatever he wanted.
So let me tell me, do you think he's innocent? He's guilty? Because here's a story. Okay, so we're talking Daniel Penny, a man charged with manslaughter for putting an agitated New York City subway rider in a fatal chokehold, has been indicted by a grand jury and expected prosecutorial step that will allow the criminal case to continue. So basically, they're going to prosecute this case. So Daniel Penny was charged with by a Manhattan prosecutor last month in the May 1st death of Jordan Neely, a former Michael Jackson impersonator who struggled in recent years with homelessness and mental illness. Now, the grand jury proceedings are secret, and a spokesperson for Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg declined to comment, about this stuff this past week. He said, hey, basically, he appreciates the DA Bragg conducting a thorough and investigating into the death of Jordan Neely. Like he said, when the DA first brought the charges, they have the utmost faith in the judicial process. And now that the grand jury has indicted Daniel Penny, a trial and justice can move forward. Now, okay, so basically, this guy was on the subway, and he was messing with people that were on the subway. To the fact that he was intimidating them. They thought this guy was actually going to harm them. So a prior military, is that correct?
Yeah.
He was prior military. He stepped in and he, grabbed this guy, held this guy, waited for police to show up. He put him in a chokehold. He tried to put him to sleep. And the problem is, when he tried to put him to sleep, he took his life.
And before that, Jordan Neely said over and over, I'm going to kill you. I'm prepared to go to jail for life, and I'm willing to die.
So once the threat has stopped, then what?
Then what?
So he choked him out. The guy stops. Now what?
Then what happened?
Once that threat stops, you stop.
Uh-huh.
No?
Well, did he?
I don't know. See, I think differently about this. Once the threat has stopped, then you stop. You choke a person, they pass out, then you stop. Once you go past that point, he killed this guy.
Or did that kill him once he stopped?
Was that excessive force?
Did he die? Was that what stopped him? What if his death is what stopped him?
It wasn't his death. It was him passing out that stopped him.
Well,
and then once we went past that point, we killed him.
How far past it was it?
I mean, does it matter? If you killed someone, that's not justifiable for them saying, I'm going to hurt you or I'm going to kill you. It's a verbal threat. Like, I don't think you have the right to kill someone.
In most states, verbal and the threat, just the verbal is enough is not enough for you to use force or deadly force to stop that person.
Right.
So just because some person is saying they're going to kill you, that's not enough. They have to kind of act on it, produce a weapon, needs to be a little more. So
there were 3 guys that all seemed to agree to.
So 3 guys against one.
They thought that, hey, this guy needs to be restrained. He is erratic and psychotic.
Absolutely. He needed to be restrained. Absolutely. I have no problems with that.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Need to be restrained. Need to hold this guy, wait for police to get there. But did they have the justification to take his life?
What if that's what stopped him?
This is my question, right? If you put someone in a chokehold, you should be trained and know how to do that. Did this guy have any training, any background? Was he a military guy? Or was he just some guy, I'm going to put you in a chokehold and see what happens? Because if he was trained, if he was actually a martial
4
artist,
years in the Marines.
wow, that's a lot. I mean, you'd think he would know better than to have someone restrained that far. Usually, if you're actually trained how to use these techniques, you know that it has to be done in an actual life or death situation, because if you do this, you can kill someone.
Okay, do we know at what point he passed out and then at what point Daniel Penny let go?
Does it matter, though? I mean, if you shoot someone, it doesn't matter what your intention was. So you're using deadly force. He used deadly force on this guy. Does it matter what your intention was? It matters that you used the force.
Well, what is a punch deadly force?
I mean, if you're punching someone while on the ground, you keep going.
If I just punch you once while you're standing up, is that deadly force?
Once the threat has stopped, then you stopped.
Well, I'd say that if you're in the military, you're a trained martial artist, your fists are deadly force. I mean, yes, like
If it causes death or serious bodily injury, it's deadly force. If it does not cause death or serious bodily injury, it is force.
So a punch can be both deadly force and not deadly force,
Because
right?
it can cause deadly force. If
I
it causes
punch you
deadly
and
force,
you
then it's deadly force.
and you fall back and you hit your head on a rock and you die, then that's deadly force.
That is
right?
deadly force.
But if I do the same punch and that rock is not there and you hit a pillow instead, that is not deadly force.
That's force.
Yeah.
I get you.
So it's the same thing, right?
But he died.
Mhm.
Now what?
that's saying that intentions doesn't matter.
He went too far. I'm sorry. And I honestly, hey, and I get it. I totally get it. This guy was a menace to society. He was, he was the worst of the community. He was causing, he actually, these ladies were in fear of losing their life. Absolutely.
They're in fear of their life.
They stopped the threat. Once the threat stops, then you stop. Anything
Okay.
else, anything
Who's
more
to
than that
say
is
he didn't-
excessive.
Who's to say he didn't stop then?
The guy passed out. He stopped.
Okay, so the guy passed out, he stopped.
And then he went a step further.
I still think this
He
is
did? How do
ridiculous.
you-
Is
so
this guy?
how
He went a step further
how
and took
long
his life.
did he choke him after he was passed out?
I'm not an ME. I'm not a medical examiner, but long enough for him to die.
So we don't even know if he did it for any longer
But he
than
died.
after he passed out.
He killed this guy.
Uh-huh.
The threat stopped.
He stopped the
passed-
threat.
He passed out.
He stopped that threat.
He went a step further, and he killed him.
He stopped the threat.
Ah.
He sure did.
If this, you want to come back?
Oh, we come back from the break when I talk about this and more. This is Michael Cargill, and you are listening to Come and Talk It.
This is Brittany Glaze, and I get my global gun news from Michael Cargill on Come and Talk It.
Whether it's a typical traffic stop or you're just involved in a use of force incident, encounters with law enforcement can be scary and stressful. In the heat of the moment, you may inadvertently say something you don't mean or make an inconsistent statement. These are red flags for officers, and if they think you're lying or your story doesn't add up, they might arrest you and let the criminal justice system decide your fate. Police officers are trained to get information from you without making the interaction seem like a formal interrogation. But remember, from the moment an officer arrives on scene, everything you say and everything you do will be scrutinized in court. The prosecuting attorney will attempt to use anything and everything against you. So what do you say? You say, I invoke my right to remain silent, and then let your attorney interact with law enforcement on your behalf. One important note though, do not throw common sense out the window. For example, if the intruder's hiding somewhere in your house when the police arrive, or if you saw the perpetrator pitch his weapon into your backyard, quickly tell the police and then stop talking. You might ask, what about my rights? What if the police never read me my Miranda rights? Miranda rights is the common name for a collection of rights contained in the Miranda warnings, given to suspects when they're placed under arrest. The warning comes from a 1966 Supreme Court case, Miranda v. Arizona. In that case, the court held that statements from a custodial interrogation would not be admissible unless proper procedural.
Welcome back to Come and Talk It. And now here's Michael Cargill.
All right, so we're back and we're talking about current events. We're talking about recent shootings. We're talking about previous shootings. We're talking about the anniversary of the mass shooting here in Austin, Texas. And so I do want to bring into the conversation Nick Kantor, who's the brother of Doug Kantor, who was actually murdered 2 years ago. And it's been 2 years, and this case has not gone to court. We're talking about, pretty much we know, allegedly, who actually pulled the trigger. We know who committed this crime, and the fact that the DA has not brought this case to court. But the DA is focusing on all these other cases that I think that, they're targeting certain people because these other people fit in a certain demographic that goes opposition to his political perspective. And we're talking, what is it, 2 years ago? There's a hype. Go ahead.
Yeah, a little over 2 years ago. It was June 12th, 2021. And the detectives and the police, they got the suspects pretty much right away. This wasn't like an immaculate, plan. There was just two gangs shooting at each other on 6th Street. They got caught on camera. They pretty much rounded everybody up within 3 or 4 days. So the facts of the case were pretty cut and dry. And there's really no reason that this couldn't have been open and closed within a couple of months.
Right. And we're talking about these are teenagers.
Correct.
Teenagers.
Yeah, wasn't the shooter 17?
I believe he was 19 at the time. If I'm correct, I believe he's 21 now. I'm not sure if he's turned 21 yet, but I'm pretty sure he has by now.
Why is he not in jail?
Well, he's in jail. Nobody else that was involved is. One of his friends, accomplices, gang members, whatever you want to call him, he actually took the murder weapon and hid it and then tried to sell it for him to dispose of it and got caught. That guy is actually out. He's not in jail. But the one who allegedly pulled the trigger is.
Is he in jail for the charge of killing your brother?
He is in jail for the charge of murdering my brother right now, yes.
That's good.
And so tell us a little bit about your brother. Tell us, what's going on with the DA. Kind of fill us in a little bit.
Well, my brother was down there in Austin because he heard it was a beautiful place. He had just graduated from Michigan State with his, University of Michigan with his master's degree. And his one of his longtime best friends that moved down to Texas when we were kids lives down there. So he figured he would kind of have like a little powwow with his old friends and celebrate, getting his master's degree. And while they were out in the music district on 6th Street, which is where he heard it was, kind of a place to kind of see a touristy destination, if you will. Apparently these two gangs had a shootout because that was a common place for that kind of stuff to happen on 6th Street, unbeknownst to my brother who, comes from New York and lived in Michigan at the time. So I'm sure his guard wasn't up and he was caught in the crossfire. And, the district attorney doesn't really see anything wrong with it. I mean, he understands that he has to prosecute the man who pulled the trigger, but beyond that, he doesn't see that anyone else involved was in the wrong. I mean, he thinks basically that the only accountability falls on the shooter and that, a potential plea deal, which I'm sure he's been working and hasn't told us, is, sufficient. He's not interested in prosecuting the other gang members. He's not interested in prosecuting any illegal weapons charges because out of the 10 to 14 gang members, 13 illegal firearms were apprehended. And there's been not one single charge related to that. It's the only 2 charges that he's filed are murder and evidence tampering by the guy who tried to hide the firearm and then sell it.
I would think that would be obstruction of justice as well, right?
Well, it's obstruction of justice, accessory to murder. I mean, look, to be fair, Texas law calls that every single person involved in that shooting on both sides, both gangs, could be charged with attempted murder or accessory to murder because they were all involved. I mean, it's no different than if all of them decided to rob a bank. If one of them shoots the teller, everyone involved in that robbery, whether the guy's driving the getaway car or he's the lookout, can all be charged with the same crime. That's the way the law is written.
That's right.
And in the same token, these gangs all, this was prearranged to a degree. I mean, it wasn't like, hey, let's meet on the corner of, I forget the block, but in front of the Moose Knuckle Pub and have a shootout. But it was, they had a shootout the week before. The one gang posted on social media that they would be there again, or they would be there that night, and the other gang saw that and, came to the challenge. Now, that to me is pretty much premeditated. I mean, to a degree at least. So everybody that went there, I mean, they came with 13 illegal guns. They weren't planning on, having a wrestling match.
Why do you say? Why do you say 13 illegal guns?
That's what I was told was apprehended between the gang members, and they were illegal because everyone that was apprehended was under the age of 21. So no one.
So 13 guns were recovered at the time, and at that time they were not legally able to be carrying those firearms at that time, and so we're talking about 13 guns were confiscated. And no one's been charged no one's been convicted as of this date today.
And even if they were of age, if you are a member of a street gang, then you are prohibited from owning any firearm.
And so we're talking about a city. We're talking about a group of people. We're talking about, a group of people that their whole political platform is we need to get illegal guns off the street. We're talking about we need to make sure that we stop these mass shootings. We're talking about we need to get rid of, different shootings. We need to stop this stuff that's happening. We're talking about these people, and they're not prosecuting the people that are actually committing the freaking crimes.
Exactly. And that's the hypocrisy of all of it is, you hear every time there's a shooting, they're blaming the gun, right? And they say, we need to get better background checks. We need to get guns off the street. Well, here's your opportunity. You got 13 illegal guns off the street. Punish those who had the guns. And then the next group of people that is holding illegal firearms may think twice. You know what? If one of my friends shoots somebody and I get caught with an illegal gun, I don't want to go to prison. You know what? I'm not going to carry my illegal gun out to 6th Street tonight. I'm not going to go out to the club with a gun in my waistband because I don't want to go to prison if one of my friends decides to pop off. But instead, the message is...
And you're talking about 13 guns, whether they were stolen guns, whether they were carrying the guns in the bars, that's actually a felony, where they're minors in possession of a firearm. We're talking about committing several crimes, and no one's been convicted as of today.
No one's even charged, let alone convicted. None of them have even been charged with a weapons possession. They just apprehended the guns and sent them home.
But the whole thing is we need to get these illegal guns off the street. We need to, confiscate firearms. We need to, take guns away from certain people. But when they have it in their hands, delivered to them on a civil platter, they're still not prosecuting the people that are clearly committing the freaking crimes.
No, because it doesn't fit the narrative. See, the narrative is that it's a legal gun owner that one day cracks and shoots up a school And that's the gun they want to go after. They don't want to go after the illegal gun because the illegal gun doesn't allow them to attack gun manufacturers because it's illegal, right? So, unfortunately, this political agenda and war against the Second Amendment doesn't apply to illegal firearms. It really only applies to legal firearms. As you could see in this case.
Yeah, so they're trying to take guns from certain people. They're not trying to really get the illegal guns off the street. You have someone who's underage, not supposed to be in possession of a firearm, who's taking guns in a prohibited place, who carrying a firearm illegally, and they're not supposed to. We're not going to prosecute those people. What we're going to do is we're going to take the guns from people who can legally carry the firearms. We're just going to we're going to say, hey, you know what? Your gun, we're going to turn your gun into an illegal gun, and we're going to confiscate it from you.
And that takes me back to that Alexander Solzhenitsyn quote that he starts by saying, your punishment for having a knife when they searched you would be very different from the thief's. For him to have a knife was mere misbehavior, tradition. He didn't know any better. But for you to have one was terrorism. Right?
Crazy.
So these criminals can have these guns, and they can commit crimes with these guns, but, they want to take them out of law-abiding citizens' hands.
Man, I'd say...
Right.
Go ahead.
And, I find it ironic that in every other tragic instance, for example, car accidents, they blame the person. When it's a texting and driving incident, they blame the person. When it's a drunk driving incident, they blame the person. How come when it comes to a shooting, the gun is at fault? I mean, I'm not able to really wrap my head around why guns are responsible for, the chaos and the destruction that they cause, but nothing else that causes chaos and destruction is blamed. It's the person. And maybe I'm missing something. Maybe I'm stupid and I just don't get it. But I'd love, an explanation just so I could see the thought process behind why we're blaming firearms for destructive behaviors.
No, that's a really, really good question, but I don't think we will ever actually get the answer to it.
What kills me is, Daniel Perry, who's a sergeant in the United States Army, convicted of 15 years in prison, defending himself by someone who's actually blocking the roadway, carrying an AK-47 with a face mask, tactical gear, 10 o'clock at night, blocking a major road, threatening someone with a firearm, committed a crime, a Class A misdemeanor with a weapon is actually legal in Austin, Texas. This guy was, hey, he got convicted. This is Michael Cargill, and you are listening to Come and Talk It.
Hey, this is AWR Hawkins, Breitbart News, and you're listening to Come and Talk It with Michael Cargill.
Your business is going to have technical problems. There's no question about it. Pacific Office Automation is your guy because problem solving is our passion. Every business is unique, no matter how big or how small the problem. From copiers and printers, telephone systems, managed IT, print services, and more, we offer integrated, streamlined office solutions to keep your office humming. With Pacific Office Automation, it's problem solved. Visit pacificoffice.com today to find out more.
Whether it's a typical traffic stop or you're just involved in a use of force incident, encounters with law enforcement can be scary and stressful. In the heat of the moment, you may inadvertently say something you don't mean or make an inconsistent statement. These are red flags for officers, and if they think you're lying or your story doesn't add up, they might arrest you and let the criminal justice system decide your fate. Police officers are trained to get information from you without making the interaction seem like a formal interrogation. But remember, from the moment an officer arrives on scene, everything you say and everything you do will be scrutinized in court. The prosecuting attorney will attempt to use anything and everything against you. So what do you say? You say, I invoke my right to remain silent, and then let your attorney interact with law enforcement on your behalf. One important note though, do not throw common sense out the window. For example, if the intruder's hiding somewhere in your house when the police arrive, or if you saw the perpetrator pitch his weapon into your backyard, quickly tell the police and then stop talking. You might ask, what about my rights? What if the police never read me my Miranda rights? Miranda rights is the common name for a collection of rights contained in the Miranda warnings, given to suspects when they're placed under arrest. The warning comes from a 1966 Supreme Court case, Miranda v. Arizona. In that case, the court held that statements from a custodial interrogation would not be admissible unless proper procedural safeguards were in place to protect the defendant's Fifth Amendment rights. We've all seen these warnings on TV and movies. You have the right to remain silent. You have the right to have an attorney. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law, and so on. So do police have to read you your rights? No. It's important to note that officers are not required to read you these rights unless you're in custody and subjected to interrogation. If the police show up to a crime scene and start asking you general questions and you voluntarily tell them everything that happened, those statements can be used against you regardless of the Miranda warnings because you're not in custody. If you're put in handcuffs but you say something incriminating on your own without being questioned, those statements can and will be used against you because you're not being interrogated. You're just starting to spout off. This is why it's imperative that you know your rights and you shouldn't rely on the police to read them to you. Affirmatively invoke your rights. Say, I'm invoking my right to remain silent and my right to my attorney. Once you do that, the police legally shouldn't continue questioning you without your attorney present. But remember, there's a second part to this equation. After invoking your rights, you must exercise those rights. That means you have to keep your mouth closed.
Welcome back to Come and Talk It. And now here's Michael Cargill.
All right, so we're talking with the Kantor family. We're talking about, a mass shooting that happened 2 years ago where the Travis County District Attorney, Jose Garza, has yet to prosecute the shooter in this mass shooting. And we're talking about a mass shooting here where everyone's talking about we need to stop mass shootings. We need to do something about mass shootings. We need to make sure they don't happen again. Well, you know what? This is your opportunity to stop the mass shootings. Prosecute the people that are committing them, especially when you know who's pulled the trigger. But instead, they're not doing that. They're not going after the shooter. They're not, prosecuting this guy. They're focusing on other cases. We know who all the people were that actually had firearms that day. There were how many illegal guns that day, Mr. Kantor? How many illegal guns?
13.
13 illegal guns, and no one's been prosecuted. 13 illegal guns in a mass shooting in Austin, Texas, the liberal mecca of Texas, and no one has been prosecuted. Liberal mecca of Texas. Just let that sink in for a few minutes. They don't think you're stupid. They know you're stupid. They're playing games with you. And here we are, we're fighting with Washington, D.C. We're trying to stop Washington, D.C. from taking guns from law-abiding citizens. And that is why I have the Cargill, that is the Michael Cargill case against the Department of Justice, the alcohol, tobacco, and firearms. We're trying to stop them from actually changing and creating law. That's why we're doing what we're doing, because they don't think you're stupid. They know you're stupid.
Yeah, something else on the same vein as this. So the ATF went up to people's homes who bought the rare breed trigger, which is a forced reset trigger, which is legal. But the ATF doesn't like it. So they went up to people's houses. There's one guy that recorded the interaction where they said, hey, do you have these triggers? You can give them up right now. They went to his door. Meanwhile, in Chicago, these kids are posting videos with a bunch of Glock switches, which are those little parts that are just highly illegal that they put on the back of a Glock and make them fully automatic. And the ATF, crickets. They don't want to go after these people who have this explicitly illegal, felonious item attached to their gun.
I have gun owners that come into the gun store. They're like, oh my goodness, the brace ban has gone into effect. It's May 31st. It's June 1st. It's June 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th. It's June, 17th. And, I need to do something because I have a brace. What do I do, Michael? We're trying to help these people. May 31st was complete chaos for us. I mean, I was so busy, so stressed out, trying to help so many different people in taking care of their brace because they were not involved in all these different cases. They were not a part of the Gun Owners of America. They were not members of the FPC. They were not employees of the state of Texas, where they're or the people that are named individually in the lawsuits, the 3 lawsuits that were filed against the Department of Justice Act on Tobacco and Firearms, to get an injunction on the brace ban. Since you're not one of those people, you're not Gun Owners of America, a member of, you're not FBC, a member of, you're not the state of Texas, an employee of the state of Texas, you're not one of the members, the people that are named in the actual lawsuit, or you weren't a member of those organizations on the date that the lawsuit was filed, then you are screwed because now, you know what? And enforcement starts.
Or if your brace is Maxim brand, right?
What's that?
Maxim, the brand. Like that silenced pistol that you have.
Oh.
Maxim.
Really?
I think Maxim pistol braces are also injuncted.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Mhm.
So if you're not one of those, guess what? Now you better lawyer up really quick because now enforcement starts as of June 1st. And so we have people that are flooding to the gun store, that didn't know. I had someone walk into the gun store today that had no idea that the brace ban had gone into effect. Today is June 18th. They didn't even know. You're gonna have people that may get stopped by police, maybe at the gun range shooting, practicing, doing what they do, maybe out hunting, and all of a sudden the game warden walks up and catches them with a brace. What do? Guess what? They're done. That's a felony. And they didn't even know.
Here's the problem I see with this, is like, okay, the law-abiding citizens are all going to get screwed, right? Or they're going to follow the law, one or the other. But the people that are, have malintent, that are going to do something, like a mass shooting or murder somebody, the least of their worries is an additional illegal accessory charge, right?
Exactly.
Like if you plan on, buying a gun from some illegal source and shooting up a town or shooting at, a rival gang, the least of your worries is, oh, well, you had, an illegal accessory on your gun. You're going to go down for attempted murder or murder. You're not worried about, an accessory charge. And in most cases, just like the one with my brother, they're not even charging them with illegal gun charges. They're charging the guy who allegedly pulled the trigger with murder. No one else got charged. So, like, the only people that are affected by this law are the legal gun owners.
That's exactly right, Nick.
Yeah, and it just shows that the DA has their own priorities. I mean, if they're going to go after certain individuals that are committing crimes right now in comparison to 2 years ago, it just blatantly shows you that they have an agenda, that they're going to go by their priorities and not the priorities of the community. And quite frankly, our entire country that is saying, hey, look, this is a problem. It needs to be, we need to get this under control. But not even our DA is willing to enforce the laws to hold criminals accountable.
Nick?
They're only enforcing the laws on legal gun owners. That's the problem, is they're not enforcing the law when it comes to, somebody who takes one of those same weapons with all the illegal accessories and murders somebody. They don't enforce it then, but they would enforce it if somebody was at the gun range and they were minding their own business and just plinking away at targets. That's the person they want to get. They don't care about the person doing the illegal crimes, and that's the part I can't figure out is, listen, I get it. There are people who are anti-gun for whatever reason, and they don't need to explain themselves to me. They're entitled to their opinion. But if that is their position on the Second Amendment, then it should be consistent, and it's not. And that's where I see a problem, is why is your position on the Second Amendment not consistent from person to person?
Yeah. And I'll tell you, what hurts me to the core, it hurts me, the fact that there are so many people, there are millions of Americans out there right now today who are not in tune with what's going on with the news. They don't watch the news on a daily basis. They're not up on the gun culture. Maybe they inherited a firearm from a family member that passed away. Maybe someone gave them a gun as a gift. They had no idea because they're not in the gun culture. They're not, in the gun, to do or up to date with all the news and stuff like that. And they're in possession of a AR pistol brace or AK brace firearm. And guess what? They're in possession of a felony and they don't know. And that hurts me to a core because these people we're talking about, they've never done anything wrong in their life, thinking that they're doing the right thing, thinking that they did the right thing. And all of a sudden, one day, police may show up to their house because maybe there's a 911 call. Maybe maybe you called the police because, your neighbor or something happened, next door or something like that. You invite the police into your house to explain to them, what's going on. And they see your firearm, your AR pistol brace, and they say, hey, that's an illegal gun. You're in possession of what is a felony. And guess what? They can be charged and convicted of a crime. And that hurts me to the core. We're talking about law-abiding citizens trying to do the right thing, and they can get caught up easily by something as simple as that. And your intentions are good. You're not trying to do anything wrong. And that's crazy to me. There are 4 boxes out there. There are 4 boxes to be used in the defense of liberty. And I want you to remember this. There is the soap box. There is the ballot box. There's the jury box. And there's the cartridge box. And I'm telling you right now, you need to use them in that order. Use your soapbox to let people know your stance, what you believe in. You have a right to the First Amendment. The ballot box. You need to go and you need to go vote. Make sure your voter registration is up to date. Go vote. Pick your candidate. Let your voice be heard. Jury box. You need to adhere to that jury summons. Go to the courtroom. There's someone that's on trial right now that may need your help, your assistance, need your opinion in their case, need your expertise, need you to be their voice in that jury room. So you need to show up when it comes to jury summons. And then the cartridge box, because guess what? When everything else fails, when that soapbox fails you, when that ballot box fails you, when that jury box fails you, the last thing you have is your firearm, and that is the cartridge box. You may have to defend yourself with your firearm. This is Michael Cargill, and you are listening to Come and Talk It.
Peace, this is Maj Toure. You're listening to Come and Talk It Radio with Michael Cargill.
Your business is going to have technical problems. There's no question about it. Pacific Office Automation is your guy because problem solving is our passion. Every business is unique, no matter how big or how small the problem. From copiers and printers, telephone systems, managed IT, print services, and more, we offer integrated, streamlined office solutions to keep your office humming. With Pacific Office Automation, it's problem solved. Visit pacificoffice.com today to find out more.
He didn't act that way. He never flinched. He went for his pockets. And when he went for his pockets, I thought my heart was going to stop. I mean, Hi, my name's Jerry. The incident we're going to talk about took place in early March of 2017. Started back about 3 years ago. We had a fella in the neighborhood that nobody really knew. We weren't familiar with him, and he was pretty regular about speeding up and down the street. It escalated into more speeding, threats. He chunked some rocks up into the yard, and broke my windshield in my truck, and it escalated from that into death threats. And he was constantly chirping about how he was gonna end it, and he was gonna kill so-and-so, he was gonna kill me, and it was all chirping. The day of the confrontation, I was leaving the neighborhood and heading to a meeting downtown Fort Worth. It was a beautiful day. I had my windows down. I was in my Suburban. As I was heading out, just about to leave my neighborhood, this guy comes into the neighborhood, sees me coming out, pulls into my lane, causes me to stop, and then he kind of cut at an angle in front of me and jumped out of his truck and ran at the side of my Suburban, saying, "Today's the day you're gonna die, he's gonna end it." He comes over and he's slamming his hands up against the side of my vehicle, my truck. But he's screaming at me, telling me he's going to kill me. He's going to end it. This is the day I'm going to die. He reaches in to try and open up my door. I grab my weapon. I put my weapon right at his chest at the window and told him to get back, told him get the hell back. And he never did. He never moved. He never changed anything. He went for his pockets, shuffling into his pockets, and he pulls out his cell phone. I drove off around and called 911 before I got to the end of my street. Yeah, I've carried a weapon for pretty near 20 years, and I've never had to pull my weapon out. Now, I can tell you that when you do that, it's the emotions are incredible. You feel the flush come through your body because you just pulled a weapon on somebody, you're pointing a gun at somebody, and they don't move. And that's a whole nother, they didn't say, whoa, I'm stopped, like anybody that you'd think would do that, but he didn't act that way. He never flinched. He went for his pockets, and when he went for his pockets, I thought my heart was gonna stop. I was actually told that if he would have pulled out a gun, he'd have shot me before I could have actually pulled the trigger, and that's pretty awakening. I contacted Texas Law Shield and spoke with them and got a statement that I wrote, and I turned it in the following day. And it was subsequent to that I was told that I was gonna be arrested for deadly conduct, and Texas Law Shield stepped up to the plate, and they got in my corner and handled it from there.
Factually, the case was unique because Jerry never got out of his vehicle, but was still forced to pull his weapon and defend himself. And you don't see that often. Usually, a self-defense case, both people are outside the vehicle.
They ended up arresting me.
Welcome back to Come and Talk It. And now here's Michael Cargill.
All right, so, there's a way to get on the jury pool. I'm telling you right now. Thomas says D.A. Garza will keep us out of the jury pool. You know what? I don't know. You know what, Thomas? I disagree with you. Here's why. Because I was actually able to get on a jury one time. And I actually did not wear the red shirt. I made sure that's right. I wore a different type of shirt. I wore a baseball cap, and I only spoke when asked a question, didn't say anything, kept quiet, low key, and I was able to get on the jury of a very important case that lasted probably about 2 weeks, and it was a civil case in district court. And so there's a way you can get on the jury pool. And if I can get on the jury pool, anyone can get on the jury pool. I wasn't trying to disguise myself. I just didn't wear my uniform. I wore something totally different. I was smart about it. Answer questions, honestly. I was very honest. What do you think about this? What are your thoughts about this? I answered those questions and kept quiet. Only spoke when spoken to. A lot of people have a hard time with that. A lot of people want to talk too much. Can't talk too much. Only speak when spoken to.
What I say is what I say.
I said what I said. And so, man, I tell you, and that's the way to do it. And so, yeah, there's a way you can get on the jury. Get on that jury pool. Just got to, get your faculties together, answer those questions honestly, and keep your mouth shut. Only speak when spoken to. We're talking with Nick Kantor, the brother of Doug Kantor, who was murdered 2 years ago. And the Travis County DA has yet to prosecute anyone. He hasn't prosecuted the minors that were carrying guns illegally. He didn't prosecute the minors that were in possession of an illegal weapon. He didn't prosecute the minors who were possibly intoxicated while carrying firearms. No one's been prosecuted for anything. Downtown 6th Street, going in and out of bars illegally with firearms. No one's been prosecuted, and it's been 2 years. But they're focusing on other cases and other things, but not the mass shooting. The mass shootings, how everyone's talking about mass shootings. We need to stop mass shootings. We need to do something about mass shootings. We need to get these illegal guns off the street. Well, here's their opportunity. Here's their chance to get rid of stop the mass shootings, get rid of illegal guns off the street, and they've yet to do anything in Austin, Texas, Travis County, the liberal mecca in the state of Texas.
Well, that's because it's the type of mass shooting. The intent is what matters. So the intent of, the shooter in this case with my brother was to shoot at other gang members. So, that to them doesn't qualify as the type of mass shooter they're after. See, they're after the mass shooter who bought an illegal gun 10 years ago and then lost his mind for whatever reason or another, and then used a legal gun to commit a mass shooting. They don't care about the mass shooting. It's the means at which the gun used in the shooting came into possession of the shooter. And that's exactly why they're not interested in prosecuting the man or men involved in my brother's shooting.
All right, and so I want to, bring you into the conversation. You're out there, you're listening, you're driving on I-35, you're, driving across the country. Maybe you're in Canada, maybe you're in Michigan, maybe you're in California. You're listening to the radio show right now. Our calling number is 512-643-5483. Maybe you're in New York City. Maybe you're on the subway in New York City, and you're thinking of the Daniel Penny case. Give me a call. Let me know what your thoughts are. Because, I actually have a different opinion about this. I like to debate this subject. For the first time, I have a different opinion. I don't think, I don't think Daniel Penny is a hero in this case. So I'm on the opposite side. Whatever. Shut up, Zach. I don't want to hear you. I don't want to see you nod your head.
Me shaking my head.
Shake your head. Nod your head.
Shaking my head.
Shake your head. Put your head in your hand. Whatever you want to do. I don't think
God's gonna get you for that.
Daniel Penny is not a hero in this case.
Oh, no?
No.
No?
I disagree with you.
Who's the hero? Jordan Neely?
No, he's not a hero either.
No?
No.
What is Jordan Neely then?
He's a criminal.
He's a criminal?
Yeah. And, FAFO.
Okay.
FAFO.
So he found out?
He found out. But, hey, he should not have been killed. I'm sorry. It went a little too far. Little too far.
I think he was not using deadly force, but it ended up killing him.
So, negligent. He was negligent.
At worst.
Accidental.
Accidental at worst, sure.
Not first degree.
But at the end of the day, when your adrenaline's pumping and, there's a lot of commotion going on, I mean, how could you say that he was necessarily wrong? I mean, in
Nick,
Monday
you're a fighter. Nick, you're a fighter. And this is where we disagree. Because you're a fighter.
Well, let him speak, Mike. Let's hear.
All right,
hear what he's saying.
So you're a fighter, okay, and you're in a conversation with someone, and the threat has stopped. You got to stop.
No, I agree. And listen, I am a fighter. I train MMA. I fight MMA amateur. I do jiu-jitsu. Like, I'm.
And Nick is my brother.
Probably...
I love Nick. I go drink with Nick. We drink. We have a great time. This is my brother right here. This is my brother from another mother.
And to be honest, and to Mike's point, I avoid confrontation anytime there's an opportunity to avoid it, because I don't want to have what happened to Daniel Perry, happen to me, because it only takes, a slip and fall. It doesn't even have to be necessarily my training and skill that does something to someone. Somebody could come at me, I could sidestep and push them, and they could just happen to hit their head on something hard, and it kills them. So, I mean, the best thing is to avoid that. But in the instance where you can't avoid the confrontation and you have to use some form of defense, I mean, all bets are off as far as how far that's going to go. I mean, once you kind of get into that mode of, all right, I got to defend myself or someone else, that person has pushed you to past the point where you want to go, and now they've kind of asked for it. And there's a difference between, stomping somebody out when they're clearly, down and they're not fighting back. But, with Daniel Perry, I didn't see the video.
Penny,
I kind of
Daniel Penny.
Penny, I'm sorry. Penny. I'm confusing.
I know. It's I'm telling you, it's a chore.
We were doing that earlier today.
Yeah, we were doing it earlier. It's a chore. It's hard.
Yeah. I mean, with Penny, I mean, I didn't see any videos. I honestly, like, with everything that I have going on, I try to not upset myself with things going on in the world. I heard he held him in the chokehold for some time. I mean, there are other holds that you could, hold somebody down with. But at the end of the day, had the homeless man not, caused the confrontation wouldn't have taken place. I mean, it's not like Penny went out looking for a fight and found a homeless guy to beat up on.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Correct.
And anybody who's concerned for this homeless man, I'd love to ask them where they were when this man needed a home, because he was homeless, right? His family wants to sue the city. Well, how come his family didn't take him in? I mean, why was he living on the street?
That's right.
Like,
that's right.
Everyone cares about him now that he's dead.
That's a very good point. I agree with you 100%.
So, you also have to take with a grain of salt everybody who cares, why they care. Do they care for financial reasons? Because that's what it seems like to me. It seems like nobody cared about this poor homeless man before he was murdered, or I don't want to use the word murder, before he succumbed to his injuries from the fight, we'll say.
Right.
Are they suing the city?
From what I heard, they are. And the last I heard I listen to the Daily Wire sometimes, and from the last thing I heard was that they were seeking some sort of like settlement in the amount of like $20 or $40 million, something like that. But it's like, again, you're looking for $20-40 million, but you couldn't give your homeless brother, $20 to buy lunch that day. You couldn't, throw him in an extra spare bedroom you had. You couldn't let him sleep on your couch. But now you want money because he's not here anymore.
Well, that's just odd. Maybe this is just my ignorance of the law, but you think that would make more sense if a state official, like a police officer, actually killed them, not just some random guy on the street. I don't see how the city is responsible for something like this.
I know they're
when
suing
it doesn't have anything to do with
Daniel
city officials.
Penny, or they're planning to.
Oh, okay. Is that what it is? They're doing Penny?
At least.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so Daniel Penny was charged by Manhattan prosecutors last month in May 1st of death of Jordan Neely, a former Michael Jackson impersonator who struggled in recent years with homelessness and mental illness. Grand jury proceedings are secret, and spokespeople for Manhattan District Attorney Alan Bragg declined to comment about what happened. Neely was shouting at passengers and begging for money when Penny pinned him to the floor of the moving subway car with the help of two other riders. Penny, a former U.S. Marine, then held Neely in a chokehold that lasted more than 3 minutes. Penny has said he was protecting himself and other passengers, claiming Neely shouting, "I'm going to kill you," and that he was ready to die or to go to jail for life. A freelance journalist who recorded Neely struggling to free himself, then lapsing into unconsciousness, said he was acting aggressively and frightening people, but hadn't assaulted anyone. Neely was black, Penny was white, and that's what they're making this all about to be. But it's about one person against another person. And did this guy go too far and take his life? This is Michael Cargill, and you are listening to Come and Talk It.
Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Jack Jones here, and I get my gun news from Michael Cargill on Come and Talk It.
Your business is going to have technical problems. There's no question about it. Pacific Office Automation is your guy, because problem solving is our passion. Every business is unique, no matter how big or how small the problem. From copiers and printers, telephone systems, managed IT, print services, and more, we offer integrated, streamlined office solutions to keep your office humming. With Pacific Office Automation, it's problem solved. Visit pacificoffice.com today to find out more.
I'm a U.S. Army veteran with a strong sense of duty and respect for our system of government. After 12 years, I was honorably discharged and decided I would fulfill the American dream of entrepreneurship and open up a gun shop in Austin, Texas. At my shop, I teach people to be law-abiding and how to safely use their firearm. On page 46, we're going to talk about Penal Code Section 46.02. The day that ban went into effect, I went into my local ATF in Austin and turned over my bump stock because I'm a law-abiding citizen. But I wasn't going down without a legal fight. So that's why I reached out to NCLA.
NCLA is representing Michael Cargill because federal agencies do not have the power to rewrite statutes. Bump stocks are not machine guns. If Congress wants to change the law and ban bump stocks, it certainly can do so. But we can't have the executive branch rewriting a statute and putting people in jail for up to 10 years.
It's a problem because, this government agency has said, you know what, something that is legal is now illegal, and we're going to confiscate it from you, and we're not going to compensate you for it, and you're going to become a criminal.
The goal of our case here is to tell the ATF that they can't get away with this kind of administrative lawmaking. This isn't constitutionally permissible, and this goes against everything that our nation was founded on.
The bump stock ban turned innocent law-abiding citizens into criminals overnight, even though they were compliant with the statute. And that's not right.
This case is not about where you stand on bump stocks. It's about the rule of law. It's about whether an agency can rewrite a statute and turn a law-abiding citizen into a criminal. If the ATF can ban bump stocks, any agency can ban anything.
Welcome back to Come and Talk It. And now here's Michael Cargill.
All right. So, the IRS confiscated tens of thousands of 4473 forms from Great Falls, Montana gun dealer. I'm going to tell you about that.
That was crazy.
It is actually insane. And that's why it's important that we support the Michael Cargill versus the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms in protecting gun dealers, because this is the exact reason why. And I'll tell you a little bit of that, why later. Because that's a big, huge case. Huge case.
Those IRS agents were in full battle rattle.
Full battle rattle. Like, why? You're going in to get paperwork. You're backed up by the ATF. Why do you need to be in full battle rattle to collect paperwork?
Hey, the only gun control that I support is taking away guns from the federal government and all their bureaucrats.
Yeah, and it makes no sense. Why is the IRS armed? I'm concerned. Should be concerned, people.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to take your money one way or another. I mean,
I'm concerned about that.
Have you seen the training videos of the IRS agents?
No.
There was a training video that was released. Basically, they had these prop guns. They were going through all these scenarios, and it was comical the way that they were just running these drills, just basically on taxpayers is who they're going to be arresting, holding up at gunpoint.
It's nuts. I mean, you really wouldn't believe how many bureaucrats on the federal level have SWAT teams. I mean, believe it or not, the Department of Education actually has a freaking SWAT team as well. So, I mean, there are tons of these bureaucrats out there that have this power, that have tons of weapons at their disposal to go after and target Americans with. And that should upset some people. That should scare some people.
But we have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it.
They don't think you're stupid. They know you're stupid. I'm telling you. Oh, man, this is insane. I can't. You can't even make this up even if you tried. All right, so IRS raided a gun store in Montana in full battle rattle. You can't even make that up, people. That is insane to me.
Yeah, this was on Wednesday.
Yeah, that is insane. That is major crazy news. Major crazy. But you know what? Before we get to that, I want to go back to talking about, Austin, Texas. I want to talk about New York. I want to talk about Austin, this district attorney that's not prosecuting. We're talking about let's go talk about Daniel Perry, who got 15 years in prison, who was a sergeant in the United States Army, defending himself during a protest in Austin, Texas, when protesters were blocking a roadway at 9, 10 o'clock at night, blocking traffic, using even to the point where they're using a paraplegic in a wheelchair to block the roadway, to block cars from driving down the road with an AK-47 and tactical gear and a face mask. It's insane. I just don't see how you want to legalize something like that. To the point that a DA who's not prosecuting a person who actually commits a mass shooting, when you have, that's all they're talking about. We need to stop mass shootings, stop illegal guns, get illegal guns off the street. And here we are in Austin, Texas, where you have your district court judges, your juvenile justices are not doing their job. They're not prosecuting these people. You have minors. These minors are committing major crimes. And if you're me, I'm telling you right now, you're walking around, you're traveling, going from point A to point B, watch out for these minors, because these minors will take your life if you're not paying attention. And they're minors. They're 15, 16 years old, and they will take your life without thinking twice about it. So you better be ready, because they're ready to take your life.
Well, and this thing is so unbelievable. I mean, Michael, you and I have different points of view on the Perry case, and I can respect that. But when it comes to this, I mean, it really does show. That's why earlier I was saying it shows that DA Garza has his own priorities, his own agenda, and even myself, I have different, political background than him or philosophy. But I almost think we should have, or I think most Americans think we should have trust in our elected officials. And this just shows that we really don't. I mean, even if you think you can trust someone, you could trust the grand jury as well. I mean, there are ways in which that this DA is not doing his job, not prosecuting people under the law, and it is absolutely ridiculous.
And let's talk about this stabbing that happened. So a mother of a man accused of fatally stabbing an ex-con who attacked his girlfriend on a J train this week compared the young man to the Daniel Penny, as he has started an online fundraiser for his legal defense. Jordan Williams, 20, was justified when he knifed DeVictor Guadraco on a Brooklyn subway Tuesday night because he was defending other strap hangers from danger which was already taking place. According to his mom, April Williams, who wrote on a Give, Send, Go fundraiser she created. So then she invoked Penny, the 24-year-old former Marine who was indicted for killing troubled homeless man Jordan Neely, and Neely allegedly threatened other passengers on a F train on the Manhattan last month. Simply stated, these cases have become all too familiar in New York City, according to the mother. And she says, and this situation resembles that of Daniel Penny, who is out of bail and able to defend himself freely, she wrote. We just pray for the same opportunity. Now, she goes on to say that he should not suffer because he cannot afford bail on a case where he simply was justified in the actions he took. The mother continues to say, why should Jordan have to suffer at Rikers Island and fight his case from a cage? So, anything about this case? I'm kind of confused by it.
Yeah, so you're actually not allowed to have a knife on the subway in New York. It's illegal.
Can't have pepper spray either, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, whatever. That's why I'm staying in those
a
states.
crazy guy on the subway is going down the cars and threatening people, assaulted this guy, Jordan Williams, his girlfriend, and then him. Jordan Williams stabs him in the chest, kills him. They take him to jail.
I'm good with that.
In his arraignment, they first brought up $100,000 bail, just like Daniel Penny got, but they ended up letting him out with no bail.
I'm good with that.
But are you good with Daniel Penny having $100,000 bail?
Yeah. He's a Marine, served that country honorably. I think he should have bail.
What if he wasn't a Marine?
He should have bail. He should be able to bail himself out.
But $100,000? Or should it be no bail?
He should be able to
Like
bail himself
$0
out.
bail.
That I don't know, to be honest with you, but he should
So
be able to
this
bail
guy
himself out.
got $0, didn't have to pay bail, was released.
And he stabbed someone who was trying to, who was harassing and, endangering the life of other people.
Just like Jordan Neely.
It's hard to compare to, I don't know, but hey.
Similar too.
I'm fine with it.
Who got no bail? Because, I mean, it seemed like the mom was saying that he was
Jordan
at Rikers.
Williams, this more recent guy that stabbed the man on the train, got, well, he didn't get no bail, he got free bail.
Well, I mean, according to the Gibson Go, they said he was at Rikers.
Well, that was up until a day or two ago.
Okay, so they changed it. Cool. Good update. Good update. I mean, just my perspective here, I was going to say it about the last case was, unless there was actually someone assaulting someone, then that would, I think, actually give you the ability to use deadly force. So I think this case is a little bit different than the last case. If someone's verbally threatening you, if they're mentally ill, saying things that are, could be, oh, I'm going to do this because I'm crazy, but they didn't actually do anything. I don't think that justifies deadly force. If you're actually being assaulted, I think that actually will justify some sort of deadly force. Now, knives are illegal in New York.
Well, they're not illegal. They're illegal on the subway.
Well, they're
You
illegal.
can have
I
them
mean,
in certain
they might as well be illegal in New York. I mean, like New York has such strict laws that trying to use any weapon, you're going to get in trouble either way.
Unless you're a thief or a criminal.
Hey, there you go.
All right, so in Montana, the IRS confiscated tens of thousands of 4473 forms from Great Falls, a Montana gun dealer. Tom Van Hoos has owned Highwood Creed Outfitters in Great Falls, Montana for 13 years. And as he pulled into work Wednesday morning, 20 heavily armed Internal Revenue Service Criminal Investigation Division agents swarmed his store. He tells the media outlets that the IRS agents in the full battle rattle had been mustered from as far as Denver and Idaho to serve a warrant for his financial records. As always, more guns equals less crime. You go out there and you buy yourself a gun. Listen to Come and Talk It with Michael Cargill.